Genesis chapter 7. Genesis 7 and verse number 1. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of the waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons and his wife, and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of clean beasts and of beasts that are not clean, of fowls and of everything that creepeth upon the earth, there went in 2 and 2 unto Noah into the ark, the male and the female, as God had commanded Noah. And then I want you to notice verse 10, And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. Father, please help me tonight to be able to communicate clearly this truth, this principle that's helped me so much in my life and that I've shared so many times. And I pray that tonight you'll help me to make it plain and clear and to present clearly what your word says about it. And we thank you in Jesus' name, amen. There are certain principles and precepts in the Bible. A precept is a direct command. It's something that's stated plainly. In other words, thou shalt not kill. That's a precept. So there's no, it doesn't necessarily come with application. It's just what it is. So it's a command or a direct statement. And a principle is something that is called a general truth. Okay, it's a general truth, and it's a foundation for your actions, your words, your thoughts, your conduct, your behavior, your heart. It builds a foundation, but it's an application of something that you find in the Bible. So there's precepts, direct commands, and there's principles in the Bible. These are the general truths that we apply to our lives. A life principle can be used to guide us in decisions. Okay, you have principles, like I've been giving those in the book of Nehemiah. There's a principle, this morning we looked at these principles of dealing with those people who stood up and opposed through deception and blackmail and trickery, and the principles that you apply there. How do you address them? How do you speak to them? What do you do in these situations? They guide us in our decisions. Life principles give clarity unto uncertain circumstances. So there's many times in our life where we just simply, we stand there and look at it, we say, I don't know what to do. Well, a principle can be applied in those situations and say, because I don't know what to do, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to apply principle A, B, C, whatever. And this is going to guide me through. So it gives clarity. It gives clarity on how to deal with certain things. And I know we've all been there. I'm sure that even in the last week, we've all been in a situation where we have just simply said, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And we're praying, but we seem like we're not getting a specific. We're not getting a Bible verse that says you need to go and do this or you need to say this. And so what do? We need to have a reservoir of principles from the Bible that we say, in these situations I need clarity, so here's what I'm going to do. Life principles will guard your heart. They will guard your heart. We need to be principled people. Now, sometimes principled people can be difficult to get along with. And I'm one of those people, okay? And I know that about myself. I know that sometimes because of my principles, it can make me sometimes chafe people. And I know that about myself. Now, I try to temper that with the Spirit of the Lord, but I'm just being honest with you. But it can help you to guard your heart. To guard your heart against temptation. To guard your heart against the allurements of the world, to guard you against what your flesh wants to do, to guard your mind. It will guard your heart, it will guard your mind in difficult situations. Sometimes when we get into a problem in our life, if you don't have a principle to go with, you might be inclined to say, let's just cash it in. Let's just cash it in, throw in the towel, and do something different. It's not worth it anymore. And so you'll find that a lot. And what happens is a principal will say, I can't cash it in because whatever. I don't cash in difficult times in marriage because, hey, God's given me this marriage and I'm going to love my wife and I'm going to love God, I'm going to do right. That's a principle. Okay? God said don't get out. Right? So it guards my heart. It guards my mind. I don't entertain thoughts, whatever it might be. And I'm just using the marriage as an example. But whatever it might be, I don't entertain the thoughts that are unscriptural or displeasing to God because of principles. And that's the way we need to be. I say we. There's a phrase here in Genesis chapter number 7 about a word basically, but this thing, 7 days. 7 days, 7 days. God told Noah, verse number 1, He says, I want you to come, you and your house, and I've seen you righteous, so come into the ark. I've seen you righteous, and bring these animals with you. And when He tells him that in verse number 4, He says, because in yet 7 days I'm going to cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And He explains what He's going to do. So Noah loads up and waits for 7 days. Because it says in verse number 10, and it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. Okay? So 7 days, this phrase is used 98 times in 92 verses in the Bible. Now, if you know how to use your Bible program, you can figure out how many times any form of that phrase is used, whether it's seventh day or 17 days or seven day on the seventh day. I mean, there's so many varieties. So every variety of that phrase except 17th, I weeded that out. It's used 150 times in 133 verses in the Bible. And there's a pattern there, a pattern of 7, but beyond what we normally talk about with 7. There's a different pattern. Go to Genesis chapter 2. And Genesis chapter 2, here's what God said about the seventh day. Verse number 3, God blessed the seventh day. Why? Because of chapter 1, verse 31. God saw everything that He had made. Behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. He's finished. So He's done. And verse number 1 of chapter 2, the heavens, the earth were finished and all the host of them. He's done. And verse 2, and on the seventh day God ended His work which He had made and rested on the seventh day from all His work which He had made. So He's resting on that seventh day. That's why, verse number 3, He sanctified the seventh day. By the way, that's not necessarily Saturday. It is on our calendar, but it wasn't necessarily Saturday on a Jewish calendar. Their calendar is different from ours. That seventh day could have fallen on any one of our 7 days of the week because of the rotation, okay? And just incidentally there, that's for Seventh-day Adventists because it could have been any day. Monday could have been the seventh day on our calendar to their seventh day, the end of the week for them. That's the way it works out. They don't work on the same way that we do, the same timing. And that's why I always tell the Seventh-day Adventists, I'm a good Seventh-day Adventist. I come to the house of the Lord to worship, and I'm there every seventh day. Every seventh day I go, and we sing, and we study the Bible, and it's not really a day of rest for me, but you get what I'm saying. I'm a good Seventh-day Adventist. Okay? But that all aside, I read a good joke today I was going to tell you before the service, but I decided not to. So now I'm filling some extra time. Just kidding. God bless this seventh day. And there's just something about this 7, the number 7 that keeps coming up, whether it's the seventh completion and so forth. But I want to really focus on the 7-day period that God keeps giving us. He blesses the seventh day. He tells us it's a time of rest. The Lord works in 7s on many occasions and multiples of 7s. We'll see that as we go through the Scriptures. The number 7 is just generally accepted as the number of completion or the number of perfection. And so I try to apply all that when I find these patterns like this. And what we read there in Genesis chapter number 7 was that God specifically told Noah to go into that ark, and He made him wait for 6 full days, and then on the 7th day the flood came. And I want to give this to you as a principle in your life, as something that I think will help you, because I believe it's a Bible principle, and because I believe it can be applied to so many different areas of our life. And basically it's this, that we need to give God 7 days. Whatever is going on in your life, we need to give Him 7 days. Okay? Now let me just leave that phrase there and let's move on. Let me show you this. We sometimes think that 7 days is way too long. We can't possibly wait 7 days, but I'm saying give God 7 days. You might be in an emergency in your life and you feel like your senses say, I got to act right now. But if you're able to wait, I'm saying wait and give God 7 days to work. Now let's look at a few things. One of the reasons I think that we need to give God a 7-day period to work is because in 7 days, God's not only doing a work outside, but He's doing a work in us. Okay? So let's go back to Genesis chapter number 7. And I want to just I'm going to make some inferences. I'm saying that up front. We don't know exactly all that was going on, but we certainly know the outcome of it. And here Noah is given this command to enter into the ark 7 days prior to the flood. Now why? That's a good question to ask, and I don't have the answer for you. But why would God do that? He doesn't do things willy-nilly, and there's no... we don't accuse God of just saying, well, go get on the ark because I got nothing else for you to do over the next 7 days. He could have continued to preach. There could have been other work to do, but God at that point was finished with Noah and the preparation of the ark and the preparation of the animals going on the ark. And so He just simply said to him, now I want you to go and you wait there. And you're going to wait for 7 days. And, try to put yourself in that situation, 7 days of just waiting. You've just built this massive boat and nobody knows why, what for. You're in the middle of nowhere. There's no water anywhere near that could possibly take a boat that size. And you're certainly not going to transport it. It's not the family yacht. So, what's that? That's it. So why? What is God doing? These are questions that I'm asking when I'm personally studying. This is what I do. I sit there and I will sit there sometimes for hours saying, why? Why not wait until the day that you're going to flood and say, all right, now, by the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of agua around, lots of water, and you better get on that boat. But He didn't. He had a plan. He had a purpose. And, perhaps knowing the environment of the time, the Bible says that men were, they had thoughts in their hearts. It was only evil continually. Mocking Noah. They mocked Noah. They mocked him and his message. You can imagine again that Noah is preaching that the sky is going to pour water out. The sky's never poured water out. What is rain? God up to that point is watering the earth by a mist that comes up from the earth. So he looks a fool. And he had to not only now embark on the ark, if you put it that way, but he has to wait and perhaps listen to a lot of ridicule. You're an idiot. What are you doing? Okay? 7 days of ridicule. Noah's a man. He's like you and me. Man of faith, yes. But I don't care how faithful you are. We all wonder, God, what are you doing? Did you even tell me to build this thing? All right, I see the animals. That's a good sign. But, Lord, what? Why? How long? Well, God gave him a clue. He said, yet 7 days and the flood of the waters will be upon the earth. There's another one. He's watching the time. He's ticking the calendar. But why? But on that 7th day, At the completion of that seventh day, the work, the preaching, the righteous living, it was manifestly declared to be correct. It was right. Keep your finger there and go to Hebrews chapter number 11. In fact, if you have something you can mark Hebrews 11 with, we're probably going to be back there again at least once. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse number 7 gives us insight to the events of that day. And it says, Hebrews 11, verse number 7, by faith Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. So the Bible tells us in 2 Peter, he was a preacher of righteousness, and here he is manifestly declared that the message that he brought, because come on, I don't care how faithful we are and how much we trust God, there are times that we say why and what and how come and for how long and what's this all about, and you know, they lived a lot longer then, so maybe they wouldn't have viewed it as quickly as we view it as being a bit foolish, but surely Noah reached a few times where he scratched his head and said, how long am I going to have to put up with this? And how long are these people going to say these things? How long, God, is it going to take me to build this thing? When is all of this going to change? And I've really put myself on the line for you, God. I fear you and I'm going to do this, but why? And God's just saying, you just keep doing what I told you to do. You just follow my word. You be obedient. But then to come to that time, and I mean as things are ticking forward, and God says, get on the ark, and then 6 days of waiting. Because on that seventh day, guys, I know this answer. God said, Noah, everything you just lived for all these years, I'm going to declare to the world in an instant, you were right. You were right to fear me. You were right to live righteously. You were right to preach to these people. You were right to lead your family the way you led your family. Noah, because you obeyed me, you're right. Wouldn't that pay it off? I mean, of all the people that survived that worldwide flood, it's Noah. And what I'm saying is that at the end of all of that time, here he has to sit and wait and ponder and give God 7 days. He waited 7 days for the waters to abate, the Bible tells us. Look at chapter 8. Chapter 8 and verse 6 through 12. It came to pass at the end of 40 days. Now the flood has come, the world has been wiped out, and don't you know, in order for the world to be flooded the way it says it was flooded, it had to be raining 22 feet. If the mountain peaks were as high then as what they are now, okay, just taking what we have now, it would have to rain 22 feet of water an hour for 40 days and 40 nights to flood the earth as it is right now. 22 feet. No, that's right. Now, if it rained 22 inches an hour, we would be in serious trouble. We've seen that happen. We were still in Queensland when those floods took place, and that inland tsunami that went through the Toowoomba area there was unreal, and it didn't even come close to 22 inches an hour. What I'm saying is that those people had literally just an instant to say, Noah was right. And they didn't last very long. I'm telling you, they didn't swim around for a few days hoping to get out of it. They were gone the first day. No one survives that sort of thing. But then the flood has taken place, and the ark has come to rest on the mountains of Ararat. And in picking it up in verse number 6, it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. And he sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. That's pretty interesting there, because the raven never came back. Do you know why? Most likely, plenty of people to eat. A raven will eat anything. He went to and fro in the earth. He had plenty to eat. He was one happy raven. Also, verse number 8, he sent forth a dove, because a dove won't do that. And he sent that from him to see if the waters were abated. That means reduced in size from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand, and took her, and pulled her in unto him into the ark, and stayed yet other 7 days. Man, you've been on this thing for the amount of time that he was on there, for all those days, and you can imagine the tossing, the turning, the toing, the froing, it was an incredible event. And he sends the bird out, the dove out, and she comes back. And you know what he's learned? I'm going to give God 7 days. So verse 10, he stayed yet other 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark, and the dove came in to him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. Verse 12, and he stayed yet other 7 days. So she comes back this time, and the olive branch is in her mouth. And now he knows, I'm nearing getting off. It's time for me to really listen carefully to God, because he's not going to just leave me here. And verse 12, he stayed yet other 7 days and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him anymore. He knows he's close. God did not tell him how long he would be on that boat. And he had no idea. He did not know how to shut that door, and he didn't know how to open the door. God shut it. And God's going to have to open it. And he simply had to wait on God. And he kept saying, I'm going to give the Lord, I'll give him 7 days. He sends the bird out. She comes back. I'm going to give him another 7 days. Send it out again. She didn't come back. All right, now I wait. I'm waiting to hear from God. I'm ready. I'm prepared. Okay? He's done this twice, and man, that must have been anxious days for him. But what an excitement in knowing when he saw that olive branch, just how close he was to getting off. But God's not finished yet. Still got to wait. But then the bird leaves, doesn't come back. And man, I want out of here. God's not finished yet. But when it was, the bird didn't come back, Noah, he just had to be listening closely to what God had to say, waiting for God to open that door and for him to get off the ark. So what I'm saying is give God 7 days. Now God might have brought you through a real difficult time in your life, and you're just wondering, how long do I have to be here? God's protected me. I fear God. I love God. I'm glad to be here. And Lord, I've sent out these little things along the way. I'm asking you to help me. And you've maybe sent the bird out. Let's try to make application. You've sent the bird out and it's come back. You didn't get an answer to prayer. You got nothing. What do? Well, why don't you give him another 7 days? Give him some time. Because he's working in you. And he's working out there. And you can't see it, because that window is up above the ark. You don't see all that's going on. And then you send the bird out again, and it comes back with the olive branch. Hey, I got an answer to prayer. God's talking to me again. He's given me something. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And then you send it out again, and it doesn't come back. Man, God's hearing me. I know he's about to move. God, I'm listening. Do you understand what I'm getting at here is that Noah was getting fine-tuned to the voice of God and waiting to hear what God had to say, because he just kept giving God 7 days. Exodus 24. Exodus 24, verse number 12. Moses has led the people out of Egypt. They've crossed the Red Sea. He's been up on Mount Sinai already. And here again in chapter 24, verse 12, and the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount and be there. Now that's all highlighted and underlined and circled and all that in my Bible. Come up and be there. Just be there. And I will give thee tables of stone and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And we're going to read down to verse 16. And Moses rose up, and his minister Joshua, and Moses went up into the mount of God, and he said unto the elders, Tarry ye here for us, until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount, and the glory of the Lord abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the seventh day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Now once again, as soon as he got up on the mount, God didn't immediately say, all right, Moses, now that you're here, here's what I want to say to you. Rather, he called Moses up to the mountain and let him sit there in the cloud for 6 days without one time saying a word to him. Give God 7 days. He might call you into something. Might call you to do something. And he says, come on up and be there. And you do. And now you're left standing. And you're saying, okay, I'm here, God. Lord, I'm here. I'm being here. Lord, I'm here. Give him 7 days. I don't know what all's going on in Moses' heart. I'd have to speculate, just like I speculate with Noah. But I can imagine, again, because he's a man, I can imagine what must have been going through his head. Did I hear him right? He did say, come up here, right? He did say, be here, right? Now I'm up in this cloud, and only Joshua, he's just a little way down the way because God said no one else can come up here. And I know the people that are down there, they are terrified of this cloud. I also know that it's burning the top of this mountain, and I hope I heard that right. Now I'm using a little bit of liberty, and you understand that, but I'm just saying 6 days is a long time, having obeyed God, to have to sit there and hear nothing from Him. On our schedule, but not on His. On our schedule, it seems 6 days can be an eternity. But to God, He's just saying, well, you're just being here, and I'm doing a work. You can't see it right now. I'll tell you about it in a little while. You just wait and be quiet. What about Joshua standing down there? Hears nothing, sees nothing. 6 days. He's going to receive the law. It's going to be a guide to Israel. He'd already known why he was going up. And he's gone up into the cloud where the glory of God was. And he's abiding up on the mountain. He's waiting for 6 days. And Moses simply waited to hear from the Lord, having followed God's previous instructions. I'm saying again, give God 7 days. Follow the instructions He's given you. And then sit still and be quiet. And let Him do what He does best. And don't get impatient. And if at all possible, just wait. You've obeyed the last command. That's all He wants from you for that time. He's going to keep His promise. He's going to tell you what He wants you to know, just like He did with Moses. He is going to give the law and the commandments. God knows what He's doing, but He just needs us to sit and be quiet. I don't know, again, what was going on. Maybe Moses was drawing very close to God during that time. Maybe he was becoming more godly through his time of sitting up there in the presence of the glory of God. But I'm saying, follow the last command, and then when it seems like suddenly everything's gone quiet, just give God 7 days and let Him work. Joshua chapter number 6. Joshua chapter number 6. They've crossed the Jordan River. They've spent their time at Gilgal, the rolling back. They've now approached to Jericho. And verse number 1, now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, See, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. Now what did He tell him? You're going to win. You're about to go into a battle. You're going to win. I've given them into your hand. Sweet, let's go. No, it's not going to happen the way you think. Verse number 3, And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war. Go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. All right, we're listening. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with the trumpets. All right? Skip down now to verse number 15. So they obey. And verse number 15, it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only at that day they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priest blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, Shout, for the Lord hath given you the city. And the city shall be accursed, and so forth. And what do? Well, they shout, the walls come down, in they go, they captured unconquerable Jericho. And they hardly had to lift a sword. God did all the work. Give God 7 days. God had already given them the victory. They went into that with a promise. You're going to win. And I'm going to deliver the city and the king into your hand. They're yours. But you have to do what I ask you to do first, and you're going to do this differently than what you're used to. You're not going to go out and raise a sword against them. Not yet. First, I'm going to do what I do. That's what God said. And I need you, Israel, Joshua, you just walk. Now, they knew how to walk. They'd spent 40 years walking. How do you like that? Isn't that something? God tells you to do what you know how to do best. It may not be what you like best, but He often tells you to do what you do best. And He says you walk around that city. And you just go around one time each day for 6 days, and you go back to the camp. Man, that must have sounded strange. He's preparing them. Go back to Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11 and verse number 30. There was a period of time here necessary to be fulfilled before the Lord was going to let them realize the victory. Please apply that. God may have already told you, I'm going to give you victory, but there's a period of time to pass before you get the victory in your life on something. But you just got to stay faithful and obedient to what He said. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse number 30. By faith. I guess I know what they were learning. Weren't they? Would you agree? They must be learning faith. By faith the walls of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days. Now, I don't know what God's doing specifically in each individual life. But I know that God may have said to you, I'm going to give you a victory, but what I need you to do is you give me my period of time. You give me my 7 days. You're going to win. You're going to overcome. But I need you to do this by faith. If you just go up now, you'll trust your own strength. You'll do it the way you know how to do it. I want you to do it the way I want. I want you to learn it by faith. Now, maybe faith was displayed through the fact that they obeyed. Maybe faith was displayed through the fact that they just had the discipline to do what they were told to do. Maybe it was patience. This is all part of learning faith. Just patience. And instead of racing up there and getting stuck into it with these guys, they had to hold back and wait for God on the 7th day to do the work for them before they could go up and take the city. Maybe the faith was submission to what could have seemed like to a militant people a foolish plan of marching around the walls of an unconquerable city. That's what it was said. Jericho is impenetrable. You don't just go take Jericho in a day, do you? You don't just take Jericho in 7 days either. This could have been something that could have stretched out for years as they encamped around the city and tried to starve them out. Israel, I need you to learn to trust me by faith. And you're going to get the victory not by your might, but by faith. 2 Samuel. You see in the principle, the pattern? 2 Samuel 12. Yes, preacher, we're saying it. 2 Samuel 12. This has helped me. This helps me. This helped me this last week when I had a message come through that gave me bad news. Bad news. And my initial reaction was, oh no, and oh, what am I going to do, and what about this, and what about, oh, I'll show them a thing or two, and that's all boiling inside of me. And just as plainly as I'm standing here, the Lord said, well, are you going to give me 7 days? And I said, yeah, I am. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do nothing except what I have to do. There are sometimes you have to do things, right? I mean, there are certain things we have to do. But I'm going to do nothing beyond what I'm absolutely obligated to do, and I'm doing it for 7 days at least. I'm going to give God 7 days. Now I want you to know that it looks like He's already solved it. Great. Now He may not. I may find out tomorrow I'm into it much deeper than what I thought I was. But what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to learn to trust Him by faith. I'm going to learn to rest in Him. I'm going to learn to draw close to Him. Look at 2 Samuel 12, verses 15 through 18. You know, David's committed this sin with Bathsheba. He's killed Uriah, her husband. The sin is out, and she's fallen pregnant. It's become common knowledge now what all took place. 2 Samuel 12, verse number 15. And the Bible says here, Nathan departed unto his house. By the way, look at verse 14. Here's part of the problem here. There's a lot going on. But verse number 14, because by this deed, David, thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. Okay, so he gave God's enemies a chance to blaspheme God because his choice servant, the man after his own heart, committed these 2 acts of adultery and murder. And he said, so the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. Now, David's told the child will die. He doesn't say when. He has no idea how long it will be. And I believe that David, knowing God's a merciful God, he goes to it here in verse number 15. Nathan departed unto his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. And David, therefore, look what he did. He besought God for the child. And David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. Now, watch what happens over the next days. He's fasting. He's on his face. And verse 17, the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. He's on his face. He's praying, he's fasting, and he is pleading with God to spare the child. Now God told him, your child's going to die because of this act. And that's why I believe that David, because he is a man after God's heart and he knows the mercy of God, he is on his face and he's just going to wait on God. But he says, I'm just going to pray and I'm going to fast until I get an answer. And I'm not moving. In verse 18, it came to pass on the 7th day. He got his answer. And guys, the answer was no. It was, I told you what would happen. And the answer that you're asking me for is no. I'm not going to spare the child. And so on the 7th day that the child died, and the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself if we tell him that the child is dead? They're really concerned because what they're seeing is they're seeing outwardly, looking at David and saying, how much worse is this going to get? Is he going to starve himself to death? But verse 19, when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, is the child dead? They said, he is dead. David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. And of course they said, "What's going on with David?" And he simply told them, verse 22, "While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me." You know what he did? He accepted the answer. No. He said, okay. Was he hurt? Of course he was hurt, deeply hurt. He knew that it was his sin that had caused the problem. But he had given God 7 days. And God came back to him and said, "David, no." But I want you to think about what happened in 7 days' time. He is pleading with God. He's fasting and praying and pleading with God for 7 days. And can I tell you that David drew really close to the Lord for 7 days? Can I say that he probably had as close relationship with God as he had ever had during that time? When you're thinking of nothing but just getting to the throne room of God and just trying to seek His face and turn His hand and get Him to do something for you, pretty much everything else means nothing. He wasn't interested in eating. He's not interested in getting up and anointing himself and taking a shower. What difference does it make? Right now, I need the attention of my God. All I'm saying is that you may be going through a time of similar heartache. And you're pleading with God on something, and God's going to come back and He's going to say no. But you need to give Him 7 days. Because God's not obligated to give us an answer today or tomorrow. And I would say this, God's not even obligated to give us an answer after 7 days. But I am saying that there is a pattern in the Bible that in 7 days' time, God seems to give answers, instruction, direction, clarity, insight, whatever it might be. We have to give Him 7 days. He sanctified a 7-day period. It was God who designed a 7-day period. It was God who told Noah to be in the boat for 7 days. It was God who allowed David to be on his face for 7 days. It was God who told Joshua to spend 7 days walking around the walls of Jericho. It was God who did this. There is something about giving Him 7 days. Now, because of the time, I just want to mention this. Ezekiel. In Ezekiel chapter 3, verses 1 through 16, Ezekiel is told by God, "I'm going to send you to a people that speak your language, a people whose heart is hard, and they are not going to listen to what you say." And that's who I want you to go to. You spend your life there, Ezekiel. You spend your life talking to those people who won't listen. Stay faithful. And then it tells us that he was, it says in the book of Ezekiel, he said, "My spirit was burning within me." He is furious. What is this? What kind of a ministry is this? And he went down and he went to Tel Aviv and he sat by the river. For how long? 7 days. And at the end of 7 days, God spake to him and He said, But Ezekiel, I've set you as a watchman over my people. And all I'm asking from you is not results. I just want you to sound the trumpet when the enemy comes. You be faithful. And He encouraged him. But Ezekiel was mad for 7 days. Furious that God would put him on that path and give him a command where he already knows he's not going to listen. Why not? If they're not going to listen, why not send me to someone who's going to listen? Isn't that what you would say? You know, why waste my time with it, God? Why don't you just wipe them out now? Send me to someone who's going to listen. I'll go to Nineveh. Apparently they listen. But he's mad. And I dare say that there's been times in our life that we're mad at what God's doing. We're not very happy about the path He set us on, and it's just made us flat angry. We're burning in our spirit about it. and we've just sort of sat down and stewed on it. But you give Him 7 days, and He might just encourage your heart and say, you're looking at this all the wrong way. Because I didn't tell you to get results. I told you to be faithful. And you're my watchman. Or I told you to be faithful, and you're going to get the results that I want you to get in your life, Ezekiel. You're going to be one of my choicest servants. Ezekiel, I'm going to show you some things about the new Jerusalem and the new temple, and I'm going to show you things in the future I've never shown anybody. Just do what I told you to do. Right? 7 days. So I'm saying that God will tell you, give God 7 days because He's working in you. Now what I didn't get to was we need to give God 7 days because He's working in other people too. When Miriam and Aaron got angry at the leadership of Moses and wanted to overtake the leadership of Moses, who are you, Moses? Who made you boss? And she was struck with leprosy. The Bible tells us that Moses went to God and said, would you take away her leprosy? And he said, to this end, he said, if she had but spit in the face of her father. I've got it all wrong. Let me get it right. I'm sorry. Numbers chapter 12. I apologize. I guess my mind's starting to shut down today again. If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? So the whole nation is ready to move. And God says, just sit still for 7 days. I'm working in Miriam. One person, I'm working in someone else. So He said, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days. And after that, let her be received again. And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days. And the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. You know, sometimes maybe God, as a church, maybe God will have us sit still while He's working in one person. He's working in someone else. And we just need to abide the time. Okay? 7 days. I could have broke this into 2 messages, no worries. God made the Egyptians wait 7 days digging for water after He turned the water to blood. And the Israelites just had to wait. He was working in someone else. You need to give God 7 days because He's working in you. You need to give God 7 days because He's working in someone else. And you need to give God 7 days because He's working to purify. He spent 7 days removing the leaven. He said, I want leaven out of your house for 7 days before the Passover. He told the high priest, He said, your clothing is going to be sanctified. You're not allowed to leave this place for 7 days. And you can't touch this thing and that thing. You can't go here, can't go there, because I'm purifying you and your clothing. He said to the priests, I also want you not to go anywhere because I'm purifying you. And you wait 7 days. Those people who were diagnosed with a potential of having leprosy, He told those priests, He said, if it looks like they might have leprosy and you're not sure, you send them away and you lock them up for 7 days. And if they come back and they're pure, then they can wash themselves and go and they're pure. But He's purifying. So it's difficult. It's difficult at times for us to wait 7 days, especially when we're under pressure in a crisis situation. When it feels like we have to respond, we feel like we have to. And it's really difficult then to sit down and say, God, I'm going to wait 7 days before I make a decision here. But that's exactly what we need to do. It's part of what God's doing. He's giving us an opportunity to wait on Him, to rest in His care, to learn faith, and maybe to be ready to receive an answer of no. But it's what He's doing. And in those instances that come when we cannot wait, we need to act. Okay, I don't want you to, I wouldn't want someone to go away and say, in every situation now, nope, I'm just going to wait 7 days and I'm not going to do what I have to do. There's things that we have to do, and you need to do them. Okay, when an answer has to be given to someone in a situation, They have to have it. We'll give them an answer. You know, a decision has to be made. When it's a life and death situation, get into it. Do something. But don't say, well, obviously this is a life and death situation, so I better do something now. If you can wait, wait. Just wait. 7 days. There's no limit to what God may be doing over a 7-day period. And I've just given you these illustrations to say that we don't know. And that's why you need to wait. It's our job to give Him the 7 days and not interfere, not resist, not move ahead without Him, not respond irrationally, not to whatever, short circuit what God does. And by the way, we need to do this in the lives of others sometimes too. When we see them hit a crisis, it is not always the best thing to come running in and intervene. Maybe God just says, no, you give them 7 days. I'm doing a work and you leave them alone. I'm doing something here. And I've watched this happen many times where I believe God was doing a work in someone's life and some well-meaning person came in and started manipulating the circumstances and doing this, that, and the other, and I could watch the whole thing come apart, and I watched them short-circuit in the life of that individual what God was doing. Now, it's tough sometimes when you're watching someone go through a difficult thing not to run in there and get involved. Just back off. God's good. He's gracious. He knows what He's doing. Give Him 7 days. So that's what I wanted to leave you tonight as a principle of give God 7 days. Then, Father, thank you again for the night, and thank you for your word, and thank you for the practicality of it again. And I'm just so grateful that you've given it to us. Lord, maybe someone needed that tonight, or maybe they're going to need it in the future. But whatever that may be in their life, I pray that you'll help them to remember these principles. Maybe, Lord, they just need to go back through and look at it again and meditate on it. And you would show them something that I haven't been able to say tonight. Whatever it is, Lord, that you had in your purpose for giving this tonight, and I know you specifically wanted this tonight, whatever it is, please accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Now, Father, as we go through our week, would you please guide us? We've got so much activity coming up, and a few of us are already weary and just facing a big week. Would you help us to get through it? Those who are going to work this week, would you help them to have the strength and the ability to do their jobs, do it well, and have a right testimony? And I'm also praying that you'll bless our holiday Bible club with many children and with some children being saved. And I pray that you would let us reach at least one family as a result of this Bible club that would be added to our church, saved and added to our church, and become faithful and grow, and that you would just give a bit of an encouragement in that regard. And I know, Lord, that's what you want. You want to see people saved, so we're praying that you would accomplish that and that you would make all of the circumstances right this week for that to happen. Help us to be faithful in the jobs that we have, and then as the weekend comes up and all the activity that's planned for that, God, again, please strengthen our hands for this good work. And we love you. We thank you. We're so grateful to be your children. And there's nothing, we couldn't ask for anything more than to be saved, but you have showered us. We are daily loaded with benefits. Thank you. And thank you that you let us come to you to pray. Thank you that you let us come to you and rest in you and learn your word the way we have today. Now please send us away with your blessing in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, that's been a lot of talking for me personally today. Yes.